But why don't we get to our first guest tonight? He can maybe fill us a little bit in on this Leo Mississinawa game. That's our man, SuperSam, Sam Frick. My man, he has the Around the Northeast corner, does some things for Outside the Huddle and Summit City Sports. I know that he's been working diligently and hard for the last couple of years. And not to say that it doesn't go unnoticed, Sam, but we always have been following you here from Upon Further Review and what we do. But welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thank you. And upon further review, I approve your compliment of my work.
I know there's a little inside joke with that one there. Well, let me ask you this. Were you down at the Leo game? Did you go down to Mississinawa? Or did
I just watched it just from a distance.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you kind of fill us in a little bit on kind of what you thought of that ball game from your observation, even though I know it's on stream and sometimes that's a different take. But I think everyone would agree, not that we didn't think Leo could go down there and win. It was that it was going to be a tough task to go down there and win.
I think the start of the game was very important because the first half, there weren't a lot of penalties and a lot of drives to begin with. So the key thing for Leo was to get that early lead, and then going for the 2-point conversion was a big statement for Leo that they were in to go in for the win in that game. Because Mississinawa, those fans were hyped up. You can tell they were excited for this moment to win their first regional since 1985. But really what it came down to was the last few moments of the first quarter and the early parts of the second quarter. Mississinawa, they were down their end on second and long, and on their pass from Quadwer, and went over the hands of Brock Schott into Deacon Diltz, and it was like a 20-yard gain for a first down. Brock Schott came within inches of potentially picking off that pass, and that could have been a pick six the other way and could have changed the entire complex of the game. It was still an 8-0 game by that point, and Mississinawa marched down to the field. They went to the second quarter. Ole Miss was in the red zone. They were feeling really good about where that drive was heading. And, the Monday kids, Elijah and Andrew, they were moving the ball well. Deacon Diltz had a monster game, both as a wide receiver and on defense. He had a couple nice hits in that first half. But the key difference was right in that red zone coming out of the start of the second quarter. Leo had a couple big plays on defense. Brock Schott forced a sack on third down, and then they stopped Ole Miss on that 41-yard field goal. And that made a difference right there. And then Leo came back and scored to make it 14-0. And I would argue the other play that also changed the game and really put Ole Miss away for good was on Leo's last serious offensive drive. It was 2nd and 22, deep in their own end, because they had a false start. And then Ole Miss had a sack on the next play. And what happened was they went to Darius Carter. Darius Carter has had a great postseason. And it just his elusiveness, his speed, found a big hole, got a 20, 30-yard gain for a first down. And Leo was just getting first down after first down after first down. Brock Schott made a catch near the goal line, and eventually they punched it in, made it 21-0. And that was all she wrote for me.
Yeah, it sounded as if there was some commanding performances in it. We've talked about the game the previous week where against Bishop DeWanger, because that was going to be the litmus test anyway, just because, here we go with NE8 playing an SAC team with a lot of tradition. And we found out quickly how Brock Schott and Caden Hurst can overtake a ball game. And then you mentioned the Carter kid and what he's been able to do thus far. It just turned into them. I call them being on a mission. And that's kind of what ultimately happened down at Mississinawa with that particular game. Who were some players out, for Leo that also popped in that ball game? And it doesn't, we know that Caden Hurst and Brock Schott are the two main characters out there, but there are other kids that have been making some huge plays in the last couple of weeks.
Oh man, there were a lot of good ones. And the only ones that really stood out to me, I thought Jasper had a monster game on defense. He had a sack earlier. He had a big tackle right in the red zone that basically set up that third down to allow Brock Schott to get that sack. The defensive line as a whole, I thought, was tremendous the whole game. I thought the pass coverage was tremendous, aside from a couple big bounces here and there. I thought they did a very good job of containing Deacon Dilts to the best of their ability. And, I thought personally, I thought Kyler Decker had a monster game at quarterback, considering, the moments in that game where Ole Miss was getting to Kyler Decker, and he made some nice senior plays down the stretch in that play. And even like, the Schlieb, Schlieb had a shoestring tackle for a sack, and we don't talk about him enough. I thought he had a nice game as well. To me, credit to the Leo defense. I mean, it's been good. They've been locked in the past 6 or 7 weeks, and you can see a team of destiny, if you would. And it's just been what a tremendous story for Jason Dorfler and that Leo Lions program. They've been building for this moment, even when Jared Souter was still there. Just happy for that community as a whole.
SuperSam Frick joining us tonight on Upon Further Review. Sam, the Snyder Panthers, in a familiar spot, getting back to a semi-state. They were there a year ago. They lose to Valpo. This time around, it's Maryville. They'll be hosting them out at Spooler Stadium. This team, coming into this year, the big question mark was the offensive side of things with the graduation of Luke Hoppert, Langston Lavelle, a lot of those guys. But they've shown that, they really can refill the cupboard there at Snyder. What are your impressions on this Snyder team throughout the year, and really how they've been able to seize their own sort of momentum?
It's a very good question. I look at Snyder in ways in which they've been resilient in a different way for Snyder. They found different ways to win in key moments. We talked about Uriah Buchanan a lot, but the Snyder Panthers have athletes across the board. We talk about Brandon Logan on defense. We talk about Rohrbarker. We talk about Kelso, right? The defense has been tremendous all year. Teron Billingsley has had a very good season quarterback. I thought that game against Mishawaka really tested Billingsley down the stretch. We talked about that 45-yard field goal. Keep in mind that Mishawaka kicked a 34, I believe it's a 35 or 37-yard field goal with 30 seconds left in the game to give Mishawaka the lead. And Snyder had to go down from their end, like around the 30-yard line or 40-yard line, and they have to go down to their end with the final 40 seconds of the game. And Snyder had no timeouts left, and they had to, spike the ball to set up this 45-yard field goal. There's a lot of schools that would be grateful to have a 40-yard field goal to do it from 45 yards in a championship game. And man, just that kid, the kid for Snyder, that to make that kick, the jubilation, the reaction from that game is just remarkable. Just take a look at this play. It's 45 yards. Games in the balance. Mishawaka had a tremendous game on defense. He makes that kick, and you can see those kids just running around. They just cannot believe what just happened. I watched the stream down the final second. I thought, what happened? And I said he kicked that ball right into the heart of Mishawaka as a whole. It was a string of pure silence. You could probably hear a drop in that building. That's how dramatic this win was for Snyder. It's one of the greatest wins in the history of the Snyder football team, and there's a lot of great wins in their program.
Yeah, absolutely. Another team, Adams Central. It's been business as usual for them all year. They're back. I think this will be the third straight matchup at semi-state with North Judson. This team is trying to get that team of destiny to get back to state to try and get Indy Lutheran again. Do we see that from Adams Central ultimately again this year?
I think AC will come in as a heavy favorite for sure. Coming into the semi-state game, this is their first home semi-state game since 2016. The last time they won a home in this round was the year they won their only state championship, which was 2000. Adams Central, I was a little bit nervous coming into that game because of the way it started against Madison Grant. And Madison Grant had a solid season in the CIC, but they scored the most points against AC all season long. I believe it was 14, and then AC ended up scoring 49 in a row. The Jets all season, I think there was been questions of how they were going to go about the regular season. And I think Michael Mosier has done a tremendous job of keeping these kids focused, because it's easy to coast through the regular season, but it's even harder to do so when you've been to state the past 2 years in a row, and the Indianapolis Lutheran, who's been dealing with their own challenges of trying to sustain that high bar of their own. And they've had a couple close games in their postseason against South Putnam and Providence. And so the Jets have had injuries all year. They've had challenges of keeping the focus in check. And I think Mosier's done a tremendous job. The seniors have been excellent all year, and they're winning games by committee. It's not just one guy. It's Curry, it's Tester, it's the Hamilton kids, it's Keaton Bloom, it's Zach Werman. He came out of his injury stint, whatnot. The guys up front have been tremendous the whole way through. And we're talking about maybe the winningest senior class in the history of Adams Central football. And sometimes I do wonder how they're preparing for Indianapolis Lutheran while still preparing for semi-state, because there are times where teams do prepare for a certain team while also preparing for the team they're going through next. And knowing that you're going to be probably going to be playing Lutheran again if you win this week, you just got to wonder how they're preparing for that game. And it'd be so cool if Adams Central would be able to win that state championship, but it's not easy. Indianapolis Lutheran is for real. They are stacked. They are the top dogs in 1A.
Sam, the other thing that, with coming up this Friday night is Northwood and Leo. And Northwood is another team that has, over the last couple of years have really had a program that resembles some of their programs back in the day. This will probably be another stiff test for the Leo Lions. And
these are two teams that know each other as well, because remember, they used to be in the same sectional for many years. Leo had some close wins when they were playing, just 4 or 5 years ago against Northwood. And, Northwood traditionally is a power, they run the foot, they round and pound the football and whatnot. And Nate Andrews, like his dad, great football coaches. But this year they've been more willing to throw the football, led by Roeder, I believe I think that's his last name. And they have the Georgia commit, Nitro Tuggle, and he is tremendous. He had a huge game against New Prairie. New Prairie went to state last year. So that tells you all about Northwood's potential. What's so interesting about this Northwood team was they did not play very well against Northridge in the sectional championship game, despite Northridge coming shorthanded. And remember, they lost to Northridge in their previous 2 meetings, both in the postseason last year and in the regular season. Northwood didn't look like the Northwood team that we thought as advertised really until the last couple of weeks. And I'm curious to see how Leo matches up with this Northwood team, because I do think Northwood up front, they're going to be a more physical team than what Mrs. Senowell was. No offense to Mrs. Senowell. They had a tremendous year, but Northwood has some advantages in the trenches there. And I also do think the pass defense, the pass coverage, especially with Lanny Hefner at corner, Camden Zeislav at safety, they're going to have a huge challenge of being able to cover not just Nitro Tuggle, but also the other receivers around Northwood, because all the attention is going to be on Nitro. But can Leo stop the other guys that could potentially be wide open as well? And again, it's going to come down to, can you apply enough pressure on Roeder to force those mistakes? And Northwood doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes when they play consistent football. But I think Leo's going to have a tremendous challenge of stopping the pass.
Well, here's a quick trivia question for you. Mm-hmm. Nate Andrews, the head coach at Northwood, was and played for Ball State as the DB back in the day. Who was the coach that recruited Nate Andrews to come to Ball State? You're on the clock, Sam.
I feel like I should know this one.
He's in this room.
You.
That's right. Good job, my man.
I'm a quick learner.
Well, that's a good one. Hey, Phyllis, let people know kind of a little bit about what you're doing, and from the media standpoint with around the Northeast corner before we let you go here tonight.
I'll kind of do a synopsis of this. So around the Northeast corner, there's about 30 schools that I cover from all across all the sports. So the 2 conferences I mainly highlight are the NECC and the Northeast State. You know the members of those conferences, you know who I'm covering pretty much. I also have added other teams recently. The ACAC has kind of been added in. I added in Bethany Christian and Lakewood Park and Whitco to kind of fill in a true presence of this 260. And so I'm obviously preparing for basketball season, and I've been kind of transitioning into basketball season the last few weeks. Gained some girls basketball content, some game of the week previews and whatnot. Trying to get some content there. Eventually, I'm going to transition over to basketball content for Outside the Huddle eventually, or at least that is the plan. I'm already in that transition with the other areas, but probably this week I'll be looking to get some content in for boys basketball season. And man, I can't wait to get things rolling. But for now in football, we hope to get some teams going to Lucas Oil Stadium, including Leo, who has never won a semi-state in football, although Leo has been to state in many other sports as well.
Yeah.
Well, we
absolutely.
appreciate you coming on tonight, dude. You have anything else from my man, Super Sam?
Well, I just know that, you know, we appreciate you coming on and the work that you do. It helps all of us out in the media, to be honest with you. There are a lot of great sites, you know, people have heard of John Harrell, but you know, Sam Frick, Sam the Man on Twitter and on Instagram, all those places around the Northeast corner, around the Northeast state, great resources for fans of those schools just to keep in touch. Not only just football and boys basketball and girls basketball, but baseball and softball and soccer. And I think it's a great resource. And it shows, Sam, that you love what you do. And that's where it starts. You know, where did this get started for you? How did you get involved and really kind of turn on to something like this?
Well, I went to school for journalism, so that was going to be a start. I did some PA announcing for 5 years. That helped with the whole interest of sports, especially with basketball, which is probably my big sport other than football. The whole thing of the blog started in 2018. I had some talks with people, and then I basically kind of went through kind of a process of trying to, you know, question my judgment, question, you know, what am I going to do with this blog? Is it going to be something that's worth it down the road? Because I wasn't going to get paid to do this thing. So it's like, you know, if I'm going to do this, I better make sure better make sure I have the supports and make sure I'm able to know what I'm doing with my writing skills. And I thank God for having a tremendous talent to write and to be able to talk about sports. My family's been tremendous. You know, I have colleagues that have been tremendous in helping me along the way and helping me grow as a journalist of my own. And, you know, the Lord's blessed me with that. And all praise comes to him first and foremost for anything with me. So I appreciate the kind words as always from you too.
Well, excellent. Well, we appreciate you coming on tonight. Thanks so much for breaking it all down. There's so much out there still with 4 teams from our area left as heading into semi-state this Saturday. Will you be at any games this week? What's your schedule looking like?
Oh, it depends. I also work at Purdue Fort Wayne, so
Okay.
I help out the college sports. So
Oh, wow.
it can get very busy sometimes, but
Right.
yeah,
Well,
I told people I wear many hats. So I guess that's what happens when you're wearing 4 or 5 hats at once. You're like, what's he doing now? It's like, yeah,
you got it.
that's yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, and best of luck with your writing the rest of this football season and into basketball. We'll certainly be watching and watching the games on Friday, and we appreciate your knowledge and helping us all break it down heading into semi-state.
Thanks for having me on.